Connected to iPhone.
I want you to listen.
And completely to sound. Sound is the factor which holds it together. Sound is the basis of form and shape. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God. We are told that this is how the worlds began and how creation took shape. We put that into the modern idiom and say that into the great voids of space came a sound, and matter took shape. Please watch carefully.
We can also use different shaped plate. Here we have a triangular plate with a crystal attached to its underside and produce a sonorous figure. We change to a higher note and see a rather more complicated figure. We use sand and lycopodium. The lycopodium moves to the center of the fields and takes up circular shapes. The sand forms the lines. Each material has its own special way of behaving. Lycopodium alone, a sonorous figure, transition to a mobile flowing phase, and back again to the figure. The sonorous figures represent stationary waves, but now we can also observe moving waves. Here, the sand is flowing in a current.
What is it that drives the rotational effect in our galaxies? What is it that drives the rotation of the planets? What is it that drives and impacts the rotation of Earth?
In vibrating glycerin, we see continuous waves which form the queerest figures. And yet, the extraordinary things we see here are simply and solely the effect of vibration.
Now, what we've seen up until now are single signals, single frequencies projected in the matter. And what you're seeing here now are interference patterns of two or more frequencies resulting in a pulse. The pulse of the human heart, the pulse that drives the blood through the veins in your bodies. What is your heart responding to? Where does that pulse come from?
Quantum physics has revealed what ancient masters knew. Matter does not exist. The concept of substance arose from the philosophy of Aristotle. And from that concept came science's conception of matter. The fact of the matter is that the substance of the universe is consciousness. Belief that the substance of the universe is matter leads to what I call a fear-greed dichotomy. As people in their quiet desperation attempt to accumulate as many material possessions and riches as possible. In fact, the substance of the universe is consciousness. Therefore, it is behavior that is important.
The life we perceive with our five senses is not reality. Quantum physics has shown that space and time are illusions of perception. Therefore, our bodies cannot truly be a reality if they occupy this space.
Rutherford performed an experiment in Manchester that revealed him the shape of the interior of an atom. Scientists were shocked to discover that the atom is almost entirely empty space. The question then became, how could this empty atom possibly make the solid world around us?
Our true consciousness does not exist in our brains or in our bodies. But this illusion of our individual bodies, along with the misinformation of our true origins, has manifested the idea that we all think independently from one another. Within this understanding, it would seem impossible to scientifically explain telepathy, clairvoyance, spiritual mediums, and other phenomena dealing with transferring information between sources without physical means of communication. But when you understand that there is a common spiritual bond between all things in the universe, and that we are all part of one divine intelligence, no phenomena is unexplainable. The blank matter within the most basic building blocks of perceivable existence is malleable and molded by intent. This means that consciousness is our reality. This is difficult to accept for most, and is quite understandable. In modern times, we are taught from an early age how to think rationally and tangibly. This is a very left-brain method of education, and it has more harmful effects than is given credit for. The left brain deals with logic, details, facts, patterns, practicality, science, and math, as the right brain deals with feeling, intuition, symbols, images, risk-taking, philosophy, and religion. With the deliberate push for government-controlled educational curriculums, generation after generation of the youth are being taught to focus only on the facts, figures, and numbers. Repetition is used to train children subconsciously to accept what they're learning. Children aren't rewarded for questioning the validity of the information they receive. They are ridiculed. However, the children who blindly accept the information as true and merely regurgitate the information on command when it is time to take a test, those children go on to become the decision makers in our government, law, medicine, business, and every other occupation with power and prestige. The most detrimental effect of being pushed away from holistic thinking with a full brain into the left brain thought is what is known as the suppression of the feminine. Every male and female have both feminine and masculine qualities. It has nothing to do with man or woman. These are represented by the left and right brain, yin and yang, black and white, light and dark, and most every other duality. Both are vital to our spiritual and physical health. So the intangible parts of our existence, such as emotions, are part of the true reality of mankind. Emotions are part of a realm that we cannot experience with our five senses, and how is it that we are all aware of our emotions? What most people believe to be emotions are not truly the emotion itself. What we are experiencing is the physical manifestation of these emotions. Anger causes disturbance in the psyche, which manifests itself in the ego. These manifestations cause the heart rate to increase, body temperature to rise, and spawn many other physical traits that signify anger. Just as music from the radio is a physical manifestation of an intangible signal, our experience of emotion is the physical manifestation of an intangible signal as well. It has been shown that our emotions have a vibratory frequency to them. Furthermore, there are only two emotions that humankind experiences: fear and love. All other emotions branch either directly or indirectly from these two emotions. Fear has a long and slow frequency vibration to it, while love has a very rapid and high frequency. To show that vibration is the very foundation of existence, Hans Jenny developed what is known as cymatics in the 1940s to show that when vibrations of sound are passed through a form of media, there is a set pattern that will follow. When the frequency increases, the media develops into a more complex pattern. Precisely what is happening to our Earth and to humanity. There are 64 possible codes of amino acids in our DNA structure made from 4 elements: carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, and nitrogen. By any means of logic, we should have all 64 codes activated within our DNA structure. Yet we presently only have 20 active codes.
And these 64 possibilities, it appears that only 20 of these codes are turned on right now for us, the 20 amino acids. There is a switch that turns off and turns on where those coding parts lie, and that the switch for that turning off and turning on is what we call emotion. And this is the first time that we've ever seen the patterns of emotion directly physically linked to human genetic material. Well, fear is a long, slow wave of emotion. So this wave of fear is a long, slow wave and touches relatively few sites on this DNA. So an individual living in fear is limited to the number of antennae that they have available to them, whereas an individual living in the pattern of love, this is love in DNA, you can see it's a higher frequency, shorter wavelength. We have many more potential sites for coding along that genetic pattern. This information, this is amazing. This is the first time we've ever had a hard digital link between emotion and genetics.
It's important to understand because another researcher named Vladimir Popanov measured tiny particles of light called photons inside a vacuum tube. The photons were scattered as expected. A sample of DNA was then entered into the vacuum tube and they measured the photons again. They found that the particles of light aligned themselves along the axis of the DNA. Then, as they removed the DNA sample, the photons remained aligned to the same form of the DNA, even though no DNA was present. This is what is known as the phantom DNA experiment. Science now bridges a very important gap between physical and ethereal, or spiritual. Our emotions directly affect the structure of our DNA, which directly shapes the physical world we experience every day. So the messages left by the ancients that we've explained here were more than prophecies about a one-world government or a new world order. We now understand why the study of the heavenly bodies were so important. The rotation and orbit of all that makes up our universe serves as a clock to map changes in their positions. Then the ancients understand that the change of the heavenly bodies were a mirror to the changes of all existence.
Berkeley Department Chairman, Chemistry, University of California, Berkeley, showed that DNA acts as an antenna for cellular upregulation. The primary function they taught us about what DNA is about. It's a receiver and transmitter of photons, light and phonon sound. For what? Cellular upregulation, meaning that their water molecules, the pyramid power around the DNA spiral energizing strands, are taking in the spiritual energy of love vibrations and then sending it out for manifesting, precipitating in a quantum field the physical matter of the body. These are hertz frequencies or cycles per second that the musicians can retune their instruments to play and experiment with. Why? Again, these are the creator's musical scale, the original solfeggio, buried for 3,000 years in the Bible. So the ancient priests who knew how to levitate the huge stones for the building of the pyramids and the Masonic knowledge that predated ancient Egypt, the ability to have this information, these frequencies, serve the function of creation, destruction, and miracles on behalf of the empowered people who had access to this knowledge. I say that because of this metaphor. This is the difference between the power of our Creator and anything else, particularly evil. That you can go into a pitch black room full of evil, full of darkness, and light a little candle, and instantly that darkness flees. But you can't do the opposite. You can't go into a well-lit room full of truth and wisdom and righteousness and joy and health and harmony with the universal power. And you can't take any amount of darkness and go into that well-lit room and have any effect whatsoever. That is the metaphor which I frequently think of when I think that I'm not empowered. It is the greatest lesson for me, and I think for everybody else, to know that we're on the winning side and that we win in the end.
As you are watching this, understand that it is not a fight to be fought. It is not a war to be waged. No gun rights have to be exercised. Not a finger has to be lifted. Most people wonder how one person can make a difference. They ask that if all this is so simple and this information is available, why hasn't someone else conquered their fears and changed the world for everyone else? This is the most difficult and beautiful conundrum to our lives. Your reality affects you and only you. Your curiosity has led you to this genre of information to serve a very specific purpose in your life.
It's not the genuine thing. Which indeed is depressing. Of being shut up in the dark for always and always and always. To be kind of buried alive in a blackness where we are blind, deaf and dumb, but somehow still conscious. But in the Eastern world, there are different ideas of this. Take a look at this book. Supposing I make two statements. Statement one. After I die, I shall be reborn again as a baby. But I shall forget my former life. Statement two. After I die, a baby will be born. Now, I believe that those two statements are saying exactly the same thing. if we think of death as endless darkness, endless nothingness is not only inconceivable, but it's logically absolutely meaningless. Because we aren't able to have any idea, much less sensation of nothing, unless it can be compared with a sensation of something. And therefore, I think what is meant is that the vacuum created by the disappearance of a being, by the disappearance of his memory system, is simply filled by another being who is I, just as you feel you are I. About being I is that you can only experience this I sensation in the singular. You can't experience being two or three I's all at the same time. Now then, it seems to me that this idea has very important consequences. One is that the disappearance of our memory in death is not really something to be regretted. Of course, everybody wishes to hold forever to the memories and to the people and the situations that he particularly loves. But surely, if we think this through, is that what we actually want? Do we really want to have those we love, however greatly we love them, for always and always and always and always? Isn't it inconceivable that even in a very distant future, we wouldn't get tired of it? And this indeed is the secret of the thing. This is why the demon of impermanence is beneficent. Because it is forgetting about things that renews their wonder. Just think, when you opened your eyes on the world for the first time as a child, how brilliant colors were. What a jewel the sun was. What marveled the stars. How incredibly alive the trees were. That's all because they were new to your eyes. Or in the same way, you know how it is, you've been reading a mystery story. And you're looking around the house, want something to read, you pick up an old mystery story. If you read it years and years ago and you've forgotten all about the plot, it still excites you. But if you remember the plot, it doesn't excite you. And so, by the dispensation of forgetting, the world is constantly renewed, and we are able to see it again and again, and to love again and again, to have people to whom we are deeply attached and deeply fond, always with renewed intensity, and without the contrast of having seen them before, always. Another consequence of this is a very curious realization to me. Who would I be if my mother had married someone else? These are the kind of questions that make us puzzle profoundly about our existence. I might so easily have been born in China and India. Why do I feel that the world is centered in this place, as distinct from some other place? In other words, you jolly well know the world is centered where you are. There is consciousness anywhere, that is I. You then, in a way, look out through all eyes, and that perhaps is the secret of the great virtue of compassion.
When your own inner sense of identity changes from being the separate individual to being what the entire cosmos is doing at this place, you become not a puppet, but more truly and more expressively an individual than ever. you see the point? That everybody, if we transfer this to the dimension of spirituality, where the highest ideal is to be unselfish, to let go of oneself, when you are trying to be unselfish, you're doing it for a selfish reason. You can't be unselfish by a decision of the will any more than you can decide not to think of a green elephant. There is a story about Confucius, who one day met Lao Tzu, who was a great Chinese philosopher. And Lao Tzu said, "Sir, what is your system?" And Confucius said, "It is charity and love of one's neighbor and elimination of self-interest." Lao Tzu said, "Stuff and nonsense. Your elimination of self is a positive manifestation of self. Look at the universe. The stars keep their order. The trees and plants grow upwards without exception. The waters flow. Be like this. All your nonsense about elimination of self is like beating a drum in search of a fugitive."
When the police arrive on the first floor, the thieves have gone up to the second, and so to the third, and finally out to the roof. And so when the ego is about to be unmasked, it immediately identifies with a higher self. It goes up a level.
friend who was studying Zen in Japan, and he got pretty desperate to produce the answer of who he really is. And on his way to an interview with the master to give an answer to the problem, he noticed a very common sight in Japan, a big bullfrog sitting around in the garden. And he swooped this bullfrog up in his hand and dropped it in the sleeve of his kimono. And then he went into the master, and to give the answer of who he was, he suddenly produced the bullfrog. And the master said, too intellectual. In other words, this answer is too contrived. It's too much like Zen. You've been reading too many books. It's not the genuine thing.
Big Smoke. What up, man?
So after a while, you see, what happens is this. The student finds that there is absolutely no way of being his true self. There is also no way of doing it by not doing it. Let me, to make this clearer, put it into Christian terms. Thou shalt love the Lord thy God. Now, what are you going to do about that? If you try very hard to love God and you ask yourself, why am I doing this? You find out you're doing it because you want to be on the side of the big battalions. You want to be right. After all, the Lord is the master of the universe, isn't he? If you don't love him, you're going to be in a pretty sad state. So you realize I'm loving him just because I'm afraid. that's pretty lousy love, isn't it? And you think, that's a bad motivation. I wish I could change that. I wish I could love the Lord out of a genuine heart. Well, why do you want to change? See, I realize that the reason I want to have a different kind of motive is that I've got the same motive. So I say, oh, heaven's sakes, God, I'm a mess. And will you help me out? Then he reminds you, why are you doing that? Now you're just giving up, aren't you? You're asking someone else to take over your problem. So you suddenly find, you see, you're stuck. So in this way, what is called the Zen problem, or koan, is likened to a person who swallowed a ball of red-hot iron. He can't gulp it down and he can't spit it out. And so nothing can happen. Absolutely no answer to this problem. No way out. Now what does that mean? If I can't do the right thing by doing, and if I can't do the right thing by not doing, what does it mean? It means, of course, that I, who essayed to do all this, am a hallucination. This is the same paradox which the Christian knows in the form, whosoever would save his soul shall lose it. Now, I think that this is something of very great importance to the Western world today, because we have developed an immensely powerful technology. We have stronger means of changing the physical universe than has ever existed before. How are we going to use it? There is a Chinese proverb that if the wrong man uses the right means, the right means work in the wrong way. Let us assume that our technological knowledge is the right means. What kind of people are going to use this knowledge? Are they going to be people who hate nature and feel alienated from it? Or people who love the physical world and feel that the physical world is their own personal body? An extension, the whole physical universe, right out to the galaxies, is simply one's extended body. Now, at the moment, the general attitude of our technologists who are exploring space is represented in the term the conquest of space. And they are building enormous, shell-like, phallic objects to go into the sky. And this is downright ridiculous. Who is going to get anywhere in a rocket? You know, it takes a terrible long time even to get to the moon. And it's going to take longer than anybody can live to get outside the solar system, just to begin with. The proper way to study space is not with rockets, but with radio astronomy. Instead of going bang, with a tough fist at the sky, become more sensitive. everything will come to you. Develop subtler senses. Let it come to if you want to think that human beings are the only sensible beings in the universe, then you make a great contrast between man and nature, and you classify nature as being perfectly stupid and automatic, whereas all intelligence resides in man. And therefore, boys, you've got to roll up your sleeves and fight this system and make it accord with the human will. Well, all that you've said by saying that is I'm a tough kind of a guy. It's really what it comes down to. And I'm not pushed over by woolly ideas. On the other hand, if you can look at it from a completely opposite point of view, and you say, well, this whole world is an enormous intelligence. It's a great conscious being, and I'm one of its operations. And really, then I've said the other end of the stick. I've put everything up. You see, the people who are tough believe that reality is in the direction of mineral. And the people who are enthusiastic about the universe believe that the more biological or indeed mental end of things is more basic than the geological. Geology down here and say that's the fundamental thing and everything else is grown up on it. Or you can put consciousness up here and say, well, everything descended from consciousness into the domain of geology. And it depends sort of on a psychic mood as to which one you prefer, because there is no way of verifying either. Both, you see, are gestures.
in myths in the sense of myth being an image used to make sense of the world. So then, we today are under the very, very strong domination of the tough guy myth. This became plausible in the 19th century and the early 20th century, and at a time when Western civilization was dominating the rest of the world. It was one of the motivating forces, there were several, in feeling that we had demonstrable superiority beyond all other people. We had succeeded the most through our technological skill in pushing the world around, and everybody else ought to submit to these benefits. And this is still a basic premise of American politics, or rather a justification of it. It, of course, is a historical descendant of our former spiritual imperialism, that we had the best religion. Even without knowing anything about other people's religions, we knew already that we had the true one. Most amusing discussion some time ago with a Jehovah's Witness. And
yo, I had some Jehovah's Witness come over the other day. Was it yesterday or the day before? Two guys, an older gentleman and a younger gentleman. The young guy looked like he could just be in his 20s, maybe 23 years, you know, not even 25 yet. And had their little Watchtower pamphlet. How you doing today? Hey, how's it going? Great. We just wanted to share with you the message of I was like, look, man, you guys come by here all the time. I'm really not interested in what you guys have to say. Oh, well, why is that? Why aren't you interested? And I'm like, dude, the Nicene Council of 325 AD, Serapis Christos, Caesar Borgia, and fucking Josephus Flavian. That's enough. That's enough for me not to believe in the fucking Bible. Not word for word everything it says. So, you know, so I don't care if you call them Yahshua, Jehovah, or whatever, man. It's not for me anymore. And the young dude was like, he just looked at me like, Caesar Borgia, Josephus Flavian. I'm like, look, young man, do some research. I know these people mean well, and I know you mean well, your family mean well, everybody means well. But do historical research on these on this book, in, you know, the documentation. How did this book come into existence, really? Why was the Old Testament and the New Testament placed under the same cover for the first time? You know what I'm saying? But the young dude was looking at me all crazy like, yeah. Yeah, I did find it extremely funny though when Jehovah's Witness come by. Like he says, I had some Jehovah's Witnesses. I was talking to some Jehovah's Witnesses. Like, these dudes can be so annoying, yeah.
It's in the sense of myth being an image used to make sense of the world. So then, we today are under the very, very strong domination of the tough guy myth. This became plausible in the 19th century and the early 20th century, and at a time when Western civilization was dominating the rest of the world. It was one of the motivating forces, there were several, in feeling that we had demonstrable superiority beyond all other people. We had succeeded the most through our technological skill in pushing the world around, and everybody else ought to submit to these benefits. And this is still a basic premise of American politics.
So what up, man? What you guys are doing, yo? It's like 4:30 in the morning where I'm at. What the fuck? What is going on, man?
Descendant of our
Why are you guys even up right now?
That we have the best religion. Even without knowing anything about other people's religions, we knew already that we have the true one.
Yeah, why are you guys even up? Don't y'all gotta go to work or something? So you're just gonna say you ain't got shit else to do right now, huh?
And
Damn.
he said, don't you think if there were God
Work? Nah, I ain't gotta go to work.
and was concerned for the human race, that he would provide us with an infallible textbook in which we would be able to find out the truth and know what was right and wrong. Implying, of course, that the Bible was concerned for the human. It's an amusing discussion.
This is when you talk about the Jehovah's Witness.
I had a most amusing discussion some time ago with a Jehovah's Witness, and he said, don't you think if there were a God, and he really loved and was concerned for the human race, that he would provide us with an infallible textbook in which we would be able to find out the truth and know what was right and wrong? Implying, of course, that the Bible was this book. I said, oh dear me, no. A God who loved the human race would never ruin their minds with any such document. Because, after all, if you have a document which tells you what to do, you don't need to use your intelligence. Then, but he says, you know, this is the Bible, and the Bible is true. I said, that's your opinion. He said, my opinion? They're quite sure that somewhere in all these efforts that go round and round, there's an answer. And the problem which is requiring an answer is, of course, can I defeat the universe? Can I, as ego, escape from suffering? Can I somehow or other beat the game and not have to take black along with white and darkness along with light? So when he has been involved in disciplines and attempts all of which are designed to bring this nonsense goal about, he discovers empirically that it can't be done. Discovers that he has posed himself a problem about which he can't do anything, and also about which he can't do nothing. And he arrives at total frustration. And so he asks, what is the meaning of this? What does it mean that I have got into this state? Well, obviously, it dawns at last that the meaning was he was asking the wrong question. He had construed the whole thing in a way that only went round in a circle. So in the same way, when we look at the history of philosophy, and moreover at the history of civilizations expressing various philosophical and religious myths, we see again the circle. That they are all, as it were, in a prison. The prison being the human situation. We are all organisms of a certain kind, and anything that we do will bear our style. There's no way out of that. Even if you describe nature as red in tooth and claw and utterly careless of man, that's a human poetic way of thinking about things. I'm sure tigers don't think of themselves as red in tooth and claw. They probably think they're very genteel pussycats. You know, in the history of philosophy, there are really three theories of nature. The first theory is the Western theory, which is that nature is a machine or an artifact. Our tradition has been to look upon the world as a construct, and somebody knows how it was put together. Somebody understands. And that is the constructor, the architect, the Lord God. But it so happened that in the 18th century, Western thought began to change. they became increasingly doubtful as to whether there was a maker, whether there was a God. But they continued to look upon the creation as an artifact, as a machine. When you go to the hospital for a medical examination, you are treated as a machine. They process you. You're not a person. You're put in a wheelchair immediately. Even if you're perfectly healthy and can walk, nevertheless they have to have you in this wheelchair. And they put you through a process. And the heart specialist looks only at your heart because he can't understand anything else. The otorhinolaryngologist, which means an ear, nose, and throat man, looks at that section of you, and he doesn't know about anything else. And maybe a psychiatrist takes a look at you, and goodness knows what happens there, and so on and so on. Everybody looks at you from their specialized point of view, as if they were a bunch of mechanics examining your automobile. Now let me take a second theory of nature. This is an Indian theory. Nature not as an artifact, but as drama. Basic to all Hindu thought is the idea that the world is maya, which means many things. It means magic, illusion, art, play. All the world's a stage. And in the Hindu idea, there is the ultimate reality of the universe is the self, which they call Brahman, or Atman. That's what there is. The self, universal, eternal, boundless, indescribable. And all of us share this self in common, because it is pretending to be all of us. He does it for unspeakably long periods of time. The Hindus measure time in what is called a kalpa, K-A-L-P-A. That's 4,320,000 years. It's not meant to be taken literally. But just for an unspeakably long time, the Brahman, the self, pretends that it's lost and is us. And all our adventures and all our troubles and all our agonies and tragedies, it gets mixed up in it. after the period of 4,320,000 years has elapsed, there is a catastrophe. The universe is destroyed in fire. And after that, the Brahman wakes up and says, well, good, crazy, what an adventure that was. He wipes the sweat off his brow and says, whew, let's rest a while. So for another 4,320,000 years, the divine self rests and knows who it is. It's me. Then it says, well, this is rather boring. Let's get going again. Let's get mixed up. And it does it in a very strange way because the way the Hindus time it, the first period of getting mixed up, getting lost, is beautiful. Everything's right. It's just life is glorious. Then it has the next period in which things get a little wonky. Something is vaguely out of order. That doesn't last so long. Then the next period, the third, is when good and evil are equally balanced. And that's still not so long. Finally comes the shortest period when everything bad triumphs and the whole thing blows up and we begin all over again. We're supposed to be living in that now. It's what's called the Kali Yuga, the age of darkness. And it began on Friday, February the 23rd, 3123 BC. And it has 5,000 years to run. But as it goes on, time gets faster, so don't worry. So you see, that's a theory of nature as a drama. It's a play. Spontaneity. it almost means automatic, because automatic is what is self-moving. Only we associate the word automatic with machinery. But Zhuang, what is so of itself is associated in the Chinese mind not with machinery, but with biology. Your hair grows by itself. You don't have to think how to grow it. Your heart beats by itself. You don't have to make up your mind how to beat it. That's what they mean by nature. The poem says, sitting quietly, doing nothing, spring comes and grass grows of itself.
I think I might go ahead and hit the gym now and get that shit out the way.
So their principle of nature is called a Tao, T-A-O, pronounced Dao in the Mandarin dialect, Tao in the Shanghai dialect, To in the Cantonese dialect. Take your choice. Tao means the course of nature. And Lao Tzu, who was a philosopher who lived a little later than 400 BC, wrote a book about the Tao. And he said, the Tao which can be spoken is not the eternal Tao. You can't describe it. He said the principle of the Tao is spontaneity. He said the great Tao flows everywhere, both to the left and to the right. It loves and nourishes all things, but does not lord it over them. It accomplishes merits and lays no claim to them.
This is a mix with Alan Watts. Alan Watts is like a philosopher, guru type guy. And so somebody took some of his lectures and spliced it with some chill step. So you can look up Alan Watts chill step mix. This is mix number 2. There's like 16 or 17 different mixes. I don't know who put them together, but they're pretty cool just because I listened to Alan Watts before I heard this with the music. And so once I came across these, I was like, holy shit, somebody fucking mixed Alan Watt with some chill step. I was like, yo, that's badass. Because he makes a lot of sense, the shit he talks about. And then having the music in there even makes it, you know, that much more calming and cool to listen to. Now, I feel stuffy as shit right now. Yeah, exactly, yo. That just had that relaxing music playing while you being creative. And then you got the man with the philosophy behind it. Alright, laptop shut down, speaker turned off, the phone disconnected. It's almost 5. I said if I can go to the gym now, I can be home by 6 something. Probably take a little nap. Then I can be back in here like 10 or 11. Yo, Puff. Good morning, bro. Yeah, you already see I've been here for an hour and a half already, dude. I think I better go hit the gym now because, like I said, if I lay down or do something else right now, I probably won't go to the gym. So yeah, appreciate everybody chilling with me. Matter of fact, everybody in here, yo, follow my Instagram. I'll stream my workout on Instagram. I do that sometimes. I'll do it this morning. Make sure my phone has a full charge. Yeah, so I'll stream my workout. I should work on legs, but I don't think I will. I probably do chest and abs. I may do a little bit of legs. I may do a couple sets of leg curls. And I don't know. I might do legs. I don't want to do no squats though, man. I may do some leg curls and some calf raises because my legs are skinny as shit. But Paintings by the Prince. It's not even leg day. Like, what's today? I got 2 more days for leg day. But I try to throw, like, when I do my core, I try to throw some legs in there too. Like, I be hating that shit though. So I don't know. I'm not. It's Wednesday is leg day, and I definitely gotta do more shit on Wednesday. But Paintings by the Prince is all my social media sites: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Tumblr, DeviantArt, everything like that is Paintings by the Prince. So let me go wash my face and throw on some clothes and grab a couple bottles of water, and I'll be at the gym in a minute and live on Instagram. Alright guys, appreciate everybody coming through, especially being up this early in the morning chilling with me, watching the progress of this project, because this shit is awesome. And it's something about this image, yo, that really, I don't know. I just love this shit. I love this image, and I think it's gonna get a lot of feedback once it's out to the public. So my viewers are always, have that first glance at all of my work before anybody else gets to see it. And I judge a lot of things by you guys, and I always get good feedback. So I know, like, when it's on exhibit and display somewhere, like, everybody else like it too, yo. So I'm feeling really strong about this piece. I can't wait to finish it. Thanks for checking in and checking this out. Like I said, I'm gonna go hit the gym, and I'll be back in here later on today, so hopefully see you guys later. Until then, peace.